launch sometime in October, next week or so. So we're going to just find out a little bit about this book because I read the last book.
Mm.
My brother, let's start off. Like, what's the name of this book and why is it a follow-up directly or indirectly to the last book? And what's the title?
I'd say indirectly a follow-up, just based on the fact that it's a basketball book. So it deals with young people in basketball and their struggles and the things that they're going through at these young ages, right? So the book here is called Not Talking About You, as I see you have it up there. I'll put my copy as well. So Not Talking About You. And just from the title alone, you might gather a little bit of what it's about, right? Where we have our main character. He's going to go through some things, right? And he's got to decide who is talking to him, or who are these people talking about, right? That he's spending his time with.
Yes, that's powerful. So let me go back to the last book, as the last book ended. Somehow that book was mostly about on the court movements, different issues, players, teams. How did we end the last book?
So with the last book, we had a young man. He was struggling with his image, right? His image and identity. On the court, he looked to be overweight, but he was a great player. And a lot of players would, use that as their weapon against him and try to make fun of his weight while he's on the court. He took it very personally and it got under his skin, right? So much so that he got into fights, and a lot of fights with other players. So at the end of the day, he knew he wanted to get back at one player, and the two of them had to end up scuffling it out, at some point they become teammates. So they had to learn to actually work together. And at some point they do learn to work together, but it took a lot of like self-reflection and forgiveness, and a lot of things that we as people have a hard time doing, right? We are so set in our ways. We are stubborn. We don't like to be offended. So that's what that book was about. So that book kind of ended on a note where we could say, these young people kind of figured these things out about themselves and were able to move forward.
Wow. In 2022, the name for these things and a lot of social media is fat shaming, right? Now the term used. Back in the day, people like grow, be strong, take it. But we're in a different world. People are discussing mental health, well-being, and so forth. So here it is. I'm watching baseball the other day, and the catcher, his last name is Kirk. He, I think he hit a ball, or the ball was hit, and he's a little bit over. I wouldn't necessarily say largely overweight, but he's a little bit overweight. And he was rounding the bases, my friend. And he was moving.
Okay.
I'm watching the thing, I'm like, this man is moving. So, the next day I heard that somebody on a talk show was saying he's an athlete. Why is he overweight? And just went into the man. His pitching buddy, Alec Manoa, took on the guy, took him on. And the man is, just because you think he's overweight doesn't give you the right. And he took him on, right? And so it is important that we address that. And those are the issues. I started to read this book right away. I'm running into stereotype. I'm like, you didn't wait long. I'm like, I'm first chapter and you're already dealing with issues. What was the stereotype you touched on as we get into this book? Like, am I a rapper because I'm Black?
Right. Yeah. So we jumped right in because it's the assumptions that you're good at things because you're Black, right? And to be honest, being Black, yeah, you are good at a lot of things that maybe other cultures aren't good at, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone across the board is that way, right? And then, stereotypes do come from a little bit of truth. The problem is when that truth is exaggerated and we apply it to the whole, that's where the problem comes in. So Khalil, He's a young man. He lived in Toronto. He moves to Milton, and the school in Milton that he goes to is not very racialized, right? There's other Black kids in the school, a few other brown kids, not very many, right? So when he comes to the school, a lot of the kids that he meets and he befriends, they have a kind of an idea of what he's supposed to be like, based on things that they've already seen on TV, based on music videos, based on everything you see on social media. So they already have an idea like, oh, you must be good at rapping. You must be good at basketball. You must be good at sports, right? And truth be told, Khalil didn't do any of these things. He's very shy. He was never involved in these things. He never really tried them. Now, it turns out that he's actually pretty good at these things, but he wasn't prior to the fact that, them, encouraging him to do it. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a fine line now when we're dancing because, he's kind of fulfilling the stereotype, right? And trying to reject it at the exact same time. And I think I know I've used to find myself in that situation. I'm sure a lot of young Black people find themselves in that situation. Just the assumption that you're this way because you're Black.
Yes, thank you. And as you say that as every human being is multi-talented. It doesn't matter what color you are. I think one thing defined any people, even though we try to always put people in a box. Let me tell people right now, we're speaking with Brother heronJones, who is a youth basketball coach, author, journalist, actor, lecturer, and award-winning performance poet. He has numerous spoken word recordings. He has a book, I Am. He's got Telephone Love, and he lives out there in Milton. Maybe this book is about him living in Milton. But my brother, when you were young and we were going to do this interview today, would you think, like when you were Khalil's age, that we would be saying all of these things about you in your biography?
I had no idea. When I was in 7th, 8th grade, I was just into sports, really. I always used to like to write short stories. So I always was into writing a little bit of poetry, rap music. I was always into that. And but in sports, of course, but then I never really saw that as a career. I never back then, that's not a career path, right? That's not something your parents encourage you to go into. And so it really took after high school is when I realized like, maybe I can actually do something with this because I had to make the decision myself, right? So I dabbled here, dabbled there, and my sports career, was coming to a tragic close, unfortunately. So, my energy had to pour my competitive spirit into another funnel or another channel.
All right, so that's powerful. And so for the young people listening, and well, it doesn't really matter what age you are. No. Whatever inspire you, whatever lights you, whatever you're passionate about, it's never too late. It's never too young to go after those dreams, because as a father, I don't think nothing probably could prepare you for that. But I'm going to go there. Because we never spoke about it, but I figure I'm going to bring it up now. What has that done to you as a person? How, have you find yourself being different from 20 years ago? And I don't want to age you. Fatherhood, how has that influenced you?
Yeah, 100%. Look, you have to change. There's no way you can take responsibility for another life, right? Whether it's the life of a child or the life of your spouse, right? There's no way you can still remain the same person that you were prior to all that, right? It's a completely different responsibility. It's a completely different expectation for yourself, right? And the selfishness at this point should come out, right? The selfishness should try to wean itself out as much as possible, right? When it was just you, you could be selfish, right? Maybe it's not the best thing, but it could be tolerated. Your selfishness could be tolerated. Your son, your daughter you can't be selfish around your son or daughter. That doesn't help anything. They don't help no situation. So right there already, yes, you have to have a change. And so for me, just recognizing that you want to see everybody be the best that they can, right? See your loved ones really excel at whatever they're going to do. You try to help them out as best you can. And I think that's what a parent is going to do, right?
Yeah.
We're all learning. We learn on the way.
So this book, you're writing this book. Your son is around. How old is he now?
So he's 13.
13. Now, the question is there any of him in the book?
In this book? No.
Is there inspiration? Because when you write, you're leaving legacies. Are you hoping when he picks up this book, whatever age he is, that he can read it and be like, oh, that's my dad. Oh, this is what I'm going through now. People are stereotyping me. So is there collections of life within the book, legacies that you're also leaving for him?
Well, yeah, 100%. But the thing is, which is kind of funny, like I ask him about these questions. I ask him about stereotypes. I ask him about racism. And to be honest, he has not seen it in the way that I saw it, right? And it's really funny. It's through generations. My sister, she's 5 years younger than me. And I always remember growing up, when my father and I would talk about, racist activities and things that we've seen, in Toronto, in Brampton, growing up, I didn't have the same experience as my father had, but I could speak to it, right? Because it was still things were happening on that level. By the time my sister was in school, she had no idea what I was talking about. She didn't experience some of those things. So I would say the racism was still there. The stereotypes, the discrimination is still there. But she didn't get it head on the way I was getting it. And I don't know if that's because she was a woman, she was a girl growing up and I was a boy, or if it's just the age difference, but there was definitely a difference. And so now to my son, who is that much younger, he doesn't really see it so much, right? Now, maybe he's not looking for it. Maybe he's not paying attention to it, right? It might be going over his head. That's a possibility, right? Because I know it's still there. Because I've heard other students talk about it. I've seen, my basketball teams, they talk about it. So I know it's still there, right?
Yeah. No, that's important because, and it's not even looking for it. I think if you don't have those conversations with your children, they might not even know when it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes racism walks innocently by, and you don't know about it. You won't know the difference, right? Mm-hmm. So, what are some of the work you're doing in the schools? And when you wrote this book, were you hoping that some of these young people that you work with, some of the young people in this age group would gravitate to this book and recognize, and it's also an easy read, and maybe you also did that on purpose?
Well, everything I write, I try to make it easy to read. No matter how complicated the subject matter, I was always taught, try to reach the youngest child and the oldest person with the same words, right? So this is what I've always tried to do, right? So I never try to dumb down anything, right? So it is an easy read, definitely, right? But purposely an easy read because I want it to be consumed, right? I want it to be digested, right? And especially for kids who are reluctant readers. I was a reluctant reader as a child, but like I said, I love sports. I did not want to read. I wanted to be outside. I wanted to be outside playing. My father wanted me inside reading books, trying to get me to read like country and Western books, which were okay, but always the Indians were the bad guys. The Cowboys always bucking shots of the Indians. So, they were fun, but like, it was always the same thing. And then like, there was other books I wasn't interested, right? So my first book I was ever interested in had to be about sports. It was about boxing. And so that got me into reading. And now that's a gift I want to kind of give back for kids who are like me, who are into sports, maybe don't really feel to read. And especially now, like kids don't want to read. Most kids don't want to read, right? Girls will read. Boys, not so much. And so a book about basketball that has, a decent story, a little bit of game action, and then maybe something that they're going through, a situation that they might be going through, that they might be able to relate to. This is something that I wanted to do. This is something I wanted to try to convey, to try to, deal with some of the issues that I hear these young people speak about.
Yeah, and that's powerful. So in the schools, we hear a lot of book clubs, but not for boys. How do you marry? Because I used to see the boys come to school at 7:30 for basketball practice.
Oh yeah,
but
that's
I
right.
see the class late for every period, right? You know something is going on in the gym, but I see them because they're like, "Oh, you're early," but it's for the other four classes. So how do you then use basketball as a thing that, because basketball is also health, because they
Yeah.
play for their well-being as well. But how then could you use it as that hook to keep them reading, to keep them academically inclined? Because they have to be together. You can't say you're not doing your work, you're out of ball, because then they might not want to do anything after. So how do you do that as a coach?
As a coach, you want to just enforce good habits, right? You want to have a certain discipline. And like I said before, as a parent, right, you teach responsibility, right? And same thing, you pass that responsibility down to your children. So my children or my students or my players, same thing. Everybody gets a little bit of responsibility, right? Everybody takes a piece of practice and takes that on for themselves. And they take that part on, they teach a little bit of practice, right? I teach them to teach. So I let them become, owners, owners of this thing that we're doing, right? If it's our team and we're trying to compete for a championship, then everybody has to take a little bit of ownership for it, right? And when you have a little bit more ownership and you feel that it's yours, now you're going to take it a little bit more seriously. Now you're going to make different decisions, right? Maybe you don't go to class late, late to each of those four classes late because you you might get punished, right? And your team is there waiting on you. Your team is depending on you, right? That's the whole thing. I always look at us like a family, and so I always preach to my players. We treat each other as a family, right? So we don't want infighting. We don't want fighting. We don't want to put each other down. We're trying to pick each other up, right? Teach each other and progress. And maybe we could win a championship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So the title itself, not talking about you. When I think about the title, I'm thinking it sounds like people's always getting into conflicts, because I think that's a must on any team. You might not want them to put down each other, but conflict always happens. The question is how you come out of it. Not talking about you. Why this title?
This title, I think it really speaks to what the book is about. So with our main character, Khalil, he is, how we say, witness to his new best friends who are all white, and listening to the way they're speaking about other races and other so-called minorities, right? And from the way that they treat him, he can't believe it in his own mind that they are actually racist. They may do little things, and we've seen it growing up here, right? You've seen somebody say something about another culture, about another race, something that just doesn't, jive too well, and may make you feel a little uncomfortable. And so this is something Khalil goes through in a number of cases, a number of times with his new friends. And when it actually hits home, when it comes to now someone who looks like him that they said something about, the answer or the reply to him is, "Oh, we're not talking about you, right? We're talking about those guys over there. Those guys, they're this. Oh, not you. We're not talking about you." Right? So that's where that comes from.
Wow. It sounds like when we used to hear the people never considered Michael Jordan black or Magic Johnson. But folks, they thought there was some super being while they would make black folks, but those guys they're the greatest ballers. They're heroes at the same time.
OJ said, "I'm not black, I'm OJ." Right?
Yeah.
So that's where you get fed that, that starts at a very young age, right?
I'm going to complicate it a little bit with you, because back in the day, it used to be the racism used to be between the black and the white, but it's more complicated now. Now we're in Brampton. Now it's about South Asian versus Black, Black
Yeah.
versus South Asian. And so all of these things in this book helps because you managed to put all the races, as much diversity in your book. Is that the plan?
Yeah, well, that's what I grew up seeing too, right? So I grew up with every single culture, right? Every single type of white culture, every single type of Indian culture, every single type of Asian culture, single type of Black culture. And we are all together, growing up together. So it's funny, a friend of mine said to me the other day, he said, when he moved to a new area, he was the only Black kid, right? Where he came from, there was lots of Black kids. And him and the Indian kids did not get along. But when he moved to his new school, it was him, the only Black kid, and 2 or 3 other Indian kids.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? Guess how well they got along, right? Because now they were the minority and they had to stick together, right? So it's very funny, like how you'll make these connections with each other when you think it's really necessary. But if it's not necessary, you're very fine with just being, just saying, oh, we'll just go with the status quo. I can stick to my own, right? And pretty much, according to his story, he tried to stick as close to his own as he could, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I'm thinking, for me, like that's natural. It's like, back in the day in high school, we Jamaicans were playing dominoes, right? In certain parts of the CAF. That's okay. The question, though, the problem now lies is when we're picking on another group of people.
Yeah.
Because but it's naturally if you're Punjabi, to connect with your Punjabi friends.
100%, yes.
It's when you start going after the other Hindu folks, or you start othering other people, because that's the problem. Because we people stick together. Like I use languages in my work. If you speak Somalian, I'll do a session. I'll bring interpreters in, right? Because it's important for you to be Somalian. Right. But being Somalian doesn't mean you have to have a war with Kenyans or Jamaicans, or if you're Jamaican, you know what I mean? Because that's the bottom line. We're in mess together. This local cook up. And if we can't even treat each other with respect, right? So is that important in your book? When the book is read, people leave and say it's important to treat people with respect and have justice. Because justice, they say, is colorblind.
Supposedly, yes. Justice is supposed to be colorblind. We this is what we strive for. I can't say it always is, but I think that's what we are definitely striving for. And yes, we want to see respect for each other. We want to have a certain type of respect for each other, because the whole thing is, if we're going to live amongst each other, right, it's either we're going to keep butting heads or we're going to learn about each other, right? So I've been in schools and in workplaces where we've tried to learn about everyone's culture, try to enjoy everybody's culture, right? Try to eat each other's food, right? Experience different things. And then you come to find out that there's lots of similarities between the things that you do and things that are based in your culture historically and many other people, right? Of course, there's lots of other differences, but that's okay. We have to be different,
yes,
right? We can still get along.
Yeah, definitely. And that's powerful. So I want you to go to the book. I want you to, I don't want to say your favorite, but everybody has a favorite. They're like, oh, we don't have no favorite friends. Well, people might say that, but you do. So pick a favorite passage, one of them, and I want you to share it with the audience.
Okay, so let's see, if I'm not talking about you, we will read a quick passage here. Okay, so just to preface this is where Khalil has tried out for the basketball team, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not sure he's going to make it because this is his first year, learning to play basketball. But his friends Cameron and the rest of the boys, they're saying, no, you're going to make it, and they're checking now. They're leaving class to go check the what's it called, the list
That
See who
list.
made the team.
Yes.
All right. So it says trials for the senior boys basketball team were in full swing. After 2 weeks of intense drills and practice, the coach, Mr. Miracle, posted the team list outside the gym on the bulletin board. As soon as Khalil and Cameron got the word that final names had been posted, they darted to the gym at recess to see if they had made the team. Cameron already knew he had made it, right? He's a star. He's a star player. He had been on the team. He was the team captain last year, so he knew he was almost guaranteed a spot on the team. Khalil, however, he did not have the same confidence. He knew that he had done his best, but prepared for the worst news. I don't think I'm going to make it. I don't think I'm going to make the team, Khalil said as they headed to the gym. I think I made too many mistakes and last practice, and Mr. Miracle didn't seem too impressed with my play. Nah, you're good. You're good. Look, in such a short time, you've become one of the better players in the school. No one can jump as high as you or grab the rebounds the way you do. Yeah, but my shot is off. I keep missing too many open baskets. Don't worry. I know for sure you made it. And if you don't, I will have to send a strongly worded email to the coach. Khalil didn't laugh with Cameron. He was too anxious. A month ago, he could care less about basketball. Now, he didn't know what he would do if he got cut from the team. I hope you're right, Cam. I really want to make the squad. I'm getting better every day. And all the playing we've been doing, it's got to pay off, right? Exactly. We got this, bro. Just like the performance. All right, now, so let's check the list, said Cameron. A small group of boys were already huddled around the bulletin board outside the gym office. Some boys were high-fiving each other and celebrating with fist pumps as they saw their names on the list, while other boys walked away dejected, complaining under their breath after not seeing their names. Blake and Dylan came around the corner as Cameron found his name on the list. Hey, Cam, you get cut? Blake yelled jokingly. Cameron turned around with his arms raised triumphantly, pretending to celebrate as if he wasn't certain that his name wouldn't be there. Me? Get cut? Never. Not a chance, bro. Cameron yelled back. He pounded fists with a few other boys who saw their names posted as well. Meanwhile, Khalil scanned the list with his index finger. Dylan approached and leaned on Khalil's shoulder. There's my name, said Dylan. And look, there's yours, Airplane. I think your real name's Khalil, right? Khalil located his name and was overjoyed. This was going to be his first team. He had never played in an official league with uniforms and referees before. Any sport he played in the past was just outside with a bunch of other kids. The ones clustered together would make up one team, while the ones left standing, they would be the other. Nothing organized by adults. Khalil slapped hands with Dylan and bumped his way through the crowd of boys still looking for their names. You guys made it, right? Cameron said, holding both hands up. You know it, said Dylan, as he and Khalil slapped him 5 at the same time. Nice, yo. Let's go out and play now. Hey, Blake, come on, let's get out of here. Khalil, Cameron, and Dylan excitedly headed out to the basketball hoop. Khalil glanced back and noticed that Blake was still scanning the team list, but soon enough, Blake joined them. He followed slightly behind as others talked enthusiastically about the basketball season and what was going to be like and how they were going to do. Blake was quieter than usual, but Khalil was too excited to think too much of it. Cameron turned to him. Blake, what's wrong? I didn't make it, Blake whispered. What? No way, you sure? That's impossible. Cameron's face turned cherry red. My name wasn't on the list. Blake's voice cracked as he spoke. Catching wind of the conversation behind them, Dylan and Khalil slowed their pace and joined in. Must be a mistake, said Dylan. Talk to Mr. Miracle about it. I don't know. Like, I'm better than Peter and Joe, and for sure I'm better than Navdeep. Like, come on, really? Like, how is that little towel head going to make it before me? Khalil was shocked. Before he could even really register what he heard, Cameron replied, yeah, that's true. That towelhead ain't no better than you. Do you see any towelheads in the NBA? Of course not. One-on-one, he can't beat you. So I don't know how he's making the team over you. Doesn't make sense. Yo, we should all speak to Mr. Miracle, right, guys? Dylan and Blake were nodding in agreement. Khalil looked at them with amazement. Once Dylan saw Khalil's eyes, he dropped his head shamefaced. Right, Airplane? Cameron repeated. Khalil was so deep in his own thoughts that he didn't even hear his name called. Right, Airplane? Yo, Airplane, you awake over there? Huh? Oh, yeah. Yeah, right, Khalil replied. To Khalil, the bigger issue was how Blake and Cameron had referred to Navdeep, much bigger than Blake not making the team. Khalil quickly realized he was the only one concerned about that. while the others were outraged about the team.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was just, you said a lot, but thing, it's funny because this is not in the bigger picture of things. This is not even registering, but let's touch it first. That dreaded list. I look at that list on a roll. I look at that list for soccer,
Mm-hmm.
track and field,
Mm-hmm.
cricket.
Mm-hmm.
That's the list. Yeah, why you decided to put that dreaded list in there? Because that's the most tense.
That's yeah. That's the anxiety, right? All that anxiety is pent up. I remember going checking those lists, and even though I was like always a really good player, it was still nerve wracking because you still had to see your name on the list, right? So yeah, you're right. It is the dreaded list. So anyone who's on the bubble, it's tough.
The turban. Like listen, as you're saying that, the coach at Seneca didn't like me. No, he didn't put me on the team at Seneca College. His brother, the assistant coach, said, "No, you can't do that." That's how I ended up on Seneca College, right?
Oh,
Football.
wow.
Yeah, because that's just how it is sometimes, right? And undefeated in Ontario, right? But sometimes they don't like you. But you touch this topic. A lot of young people probably will get this book. What they said was very offensive. I don't even know in these times what is up or what is down. Young people have this book, they get offended. The conversation was had that was offensive. How did they address it? Because I'm sure it's going to be addressed. But in the beginning here, Khalil, there's this pressure of silence, right?
Yes.
So talk to me about that.
So this is the first instance where Khalil hears them saying something like this. And for him right now, it's more of a shock. It's more of like a just quick slap in the face. He doesn't even know what to do because he was so blindsided by it. He wasn't expecting to hear anything like that before, especially early in the book. Like they've played basketball with Navdeep, right? They've played on the playground with him. So really, he's not expecting to hear them talk about him in that way, right? And Khalil being the new one, he's not the best basketball player. He doesn't feel like he has much of a voice amongst these guys who are all good friends, right? These three guys, Blake, Cameron, and Dylan, all good friends, and he's the new one, right? So what's he gonna say at this point? He's just kind of like, okay, yeah, he feels pressured to be silent, right? I'm sure he wants to say something more, but he has no idea what he would say. Is he going to tell them, oh, that's offensive, you shouldn't say that? Maybe. But the reality is that a lot of times that doesn't happen, right? Even as grown folk, I hear at work, I hear someone say something about another culture, and then you could be turned, that's a grown man. So you can tell a grown man, like, yo, probably shouldn't say that. He knows he shouldn't be saying it, right? So there's that dichotomy again, like different stages of life. Right now, as an adult, is it your responsibility to correct other people? Maybe, or maybe more of a responsibility to be an example, right? And now, as a kid, where is your responsibility? Should you say something? Should you? Because maybe the other kids don't know no better, right? Maybe Khalil should say something. This is what we're trying to figure out. And this is where he's trying to figure things out as the story progresses.
Wow. So it's deep, but when these books get into school, I gather your expectation is that there's a lot of discussion, especially with boys, as they're becoming leaders, and all of that. You expect some conversation to be held around these incidents, stereotypes, racial, just disrespect, discrimination.
Yeah. This is what we're gonna do. This is the topic, right? Just like what the last book was about, identity and fat shaming and self-worth. Same thing. Now this is a self-worth again, but acceptance, prejudice. What's it called? When you're being a bystander, right? Not every bystander is innocent.
Yes.
right? So sometimes your silence, sometimes it's warranted, sometimes it shouldn't be, right? And sometimes you will have to speak up. And if you don't speak up now, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're going to have to speak up, right? And so this is what we want to talk about. This is what the topics we're going to bring about when we're speaking with students and we're speaking with different teams and doing this in the schools and other organizations.
Who should read the book?
Any young person, I mean, the book is supposed to be for middle schoolers and younger, right? So that's really who it's geared towards. But I'm going to tell you, like I said, I try to incorporate serious and adult themes in a very simple way, right? So it's not just for children, right? There are things as an adult you're going to learn from reading this book. There are things as an adult you're going to remember about growing up, and maybe certain things maybe you haven't dealt with in your own life. Right? So although it is geared towards children, right? Middle school and younger, right? Definitely us older ones can take a quick read of it and get some jewels, right? Learn something about yourself, right? Because there's something more that we all can do.
Is there any room in the book for redemption? Because sometimes, we're living in a world that I don't know. I want to use the word, but I'm going to use it because everybody uses it. It's called cancel culture.
Yeah.
Like, if you're accused of certain things like racism, like you're canceled. Is there any room in your book for redemption?
Yeah, definitely. There's always room for redemption. But you have to come to that point where you recognize your fault, right? Where you actually see it and become, contrite for it, become apologetic for it, right? Where you actually realize, you know what? I've learned something about myself. I've learned something about the people that I've spoken about. So Cameron, in this book, there's definitely a chance for redemption, but it's up to him. It's up to him to take it on himself, right? And you'll see throughout the book, he's going to have conversations, right? With Khalil, right? Conversations with Navdeep, conversations with other people who have been telling him this for a long time, right? And it's up to him. He could choose to reject it and be like, you guys are just, talking mess. I'm gonna keep doing what I do, right? But at some point, your sins are gonna catch you, right? At some point, you're going to have to come face to face with the things that you've been doing.
Yes, true. It looks like we're not getting any poetry book for a while. I'm just changing the topic here.
Well, this is still poetry to me.
Yeah, but
right?
Every time I'm gonna ask you for some poetry. So since it's poetry to you, now I'm gonna ask you to share some poetry. I don't care where you get it from. Is it in your mind? Is it in your soul? Could you share some poetry with the audience?
Sure. You know what? And I'll do something that's along the lines of the book. This is called Black Like Me. And let me see. Do I remember it so good? I probably have it right here. Let me see. Hold on a second. Yeah, so it's called Black Like Me. So I wrote this kind of chronicling some of my experiences as a young Black youth growing up. Living in Jane and Finch and then living in Brampton and then growing up, stomping all around the GTA. And these are things that are, going on with me in school and the people that I was with. So this is called Black Like Me. So it says 1, 2, 1, 2. I remember when I was young, Black wasn't the cool thing to be. But once I reached high school, it seemed like every culture wanted to be like me. Even the Black kids who hung out with the white kids or who were following the white kids were now following the white kids who were acting more like Black kids. And for the white kids who chose not to assimilate, their biggest complaint was that their Black friends never used to speak patois back in grade 8. You see, now in grades 3 and 4, I led a gang war against the Italians in my neighborhood of Downsview. Every recess we put up our dukes, later we call a truce until one offended the other again during elementary school. So from Jane and Finch, I moved to Brampton. And in the lining of my jacket, I used to carry this weapon. I called it a skinhead beater for the white kids who wore white laces in their Black Doc Marts to symbolize their racist behavior. And then I remember in high school, only dark-skinned kids dare hang out in the student area. It was known all across the Peel region in Central Africa. That is until the new vice principal decided to tear the whole thing out. He said it was a distraction to the classes, but all the Black students knew what it was really all about. Then I remember it had to be a special occasion for the after-school Black history class to be well attended. One time, a student declared that the first human beings on this planet were Black, and the whole class was in disbelief. That is until it was confirmed by our white teach. You know, my mind goes back to my first time being stopped by the beast. Cops clutching their guns. I was 12 years old and cops are clutching their guns saying that me and my young friends fit the description of midnight thieves. Man, they had me say, the police. Then I remember moving into a new house and the one next door was still under construction. When the workers left for the evening, some of the neighborhood white kids started messing with the machines. Next day, a worker asked me who done it, but I wasn't no snitch, yo. He said, well, how come all you little Black MFers always saying, I don't know? I was like, forget him. And then when I think back in time, my closest white friend, he was jealous of me. I could hear from the comments under his breath that he might be a racist, but like Mike, Magic, and Dominique, he wanted to be. Hate us and revere us might be the same old story. Then I remember I was going to tell a teacher, or I was telling a teacher that I was going to visit my parents' home in the Caribbean on vacation. His assumption was that, and his assumption was that Jamaica was the only island in the West Indies. I was like, forget him too. 1, 2, 1, 2. I won't even go as far as to count to 3 until I finish recollecting. This goes out to anyone who has any memories of being Black like me.
Respect. It's beautiful. It's very beautiful, man. And so when the memory collects what it collects, it's what's supposed to be said and said. So thank you for that. That's powerful. You're about to embark. You're about to release. This is where that special. It's like when a woman is pregnant and before the baby is born, they have baby shower. When a person births a book, before it comes out, they have a launch. So you birthed the book, now you're going to have a launch. Tell us about this launch and why should people come? Are you going to be signing autograph? Like, tell us about the launch, man.
Yes. So as you were saying so eloquently, that this is my baby shower, right? This is my fifth baby book. And yeah, I'm very excited to present this to the world and to give this to everybody. And you know, just like a shower, I expect people to come with gifts. They don't have to buy me, you know, stuff off a registry. Just come and bring your presents. That's good enough for me. And then buy a copy of the book, right? And buy a copy for your nephew, your niece, your children, your cousins. Buy copies for them, right? Because they're going to benefit most from it, right? And so we're going to have a good time. I'm going to have, oh, you have a question?
Yeah. Correction, I got to correct you. You had said the book is for children or youth, but I'm just changing that up. I think the book is for everybody. Because I'm reading the book and I'm like, yo, like I'll buy it for all the youth, but it's a good read for adults. It's a good read for mother. You know what I mean? Anybody with a Black youth.
Yeah.
The book is for everybody, even though, you know, we could say, you know, like if you were marketing it to this middle school kids, but the bottom line is, it's for everybody because I'm reading it. I know Brother Sean is reading it and we're feeling the book. So just in case, because people would like to put you in boxes, right? So adult might think they don't want to read it, but they could not only read it, but get it for their daughters.
That's right. Yeah.
Boys, we are all responsible. I mean, until the society erase the gender, boys, we still got to make sure we take care of Black boys and all boys in general. Right. And so we want to once again thank you, brother, and tell them that you're going to be signing autograph.
Yeah, 100%. Because like we were saying with this book, we're trying to show the mentality that young Black youth have. And that's what's coming out in this book. That's why it's important for adults to read it as well, because get to understand what your children are also thinking, what they're going through. Right. And so, yes, I will be signing copies of the book, whether you bought your copy before or you're going to come and buy a copy that day. I will sign everybody's copies, and we're gonna do a little bit of performance. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a reading. I'm going to be performing myself, and I have some guests who are going to perform with me, right? They're all in middle school, right? Well, actually, one might be in ninth grade, but they're all young people. So they're 14, 15, 13, 12. They all have the gift of poetry, right? They have the gift of expression, and they're going to present that to us as well. So, and I was very excited to share the stage or share this moment with them, because I would have loved to have this opportunity as a young writer, right? And so, yeah, I think it's just, to me, it just seems like the perfect opportunity to just to share that space and get them involved, let them know what it's like to be an artist. If that's something they want to pursue later on in life, let them get their first taste of it.
Wow. And they could also get photographs. People will be taking photographs. Do people have to wear their mask? Because we know knowledge is opening. This is like a special reopening in a sense.
Right. Yes, this is the first event since they reopened. So I'm very proud to be the first one holding this event here. And I would say that if you feel to wear a mask, you should wear a mask. I don't think it's mandatory. That depends upon Sean and the bookstore, how they feel. I have not seen the mandates saying that that you have to wear a mask, but I mean, just use common sense. If you know that, you feel that you might be somewhere, you might catch something, you feel that you're free, then cover yourself up 100%, right? Wear a mask if you need to.
And is this happening in the basement or upstairs?
With both. So the first segment is going to be held downstairs. We're going to hold the performances and everything in the Liberation Lounge downstairs. Upstairs, we're going to do the book signing, right? So we're going to take advantage of both areas, right? I mean, the bookstore is beautiful. Like we want to have that energy. We want to absorb the energy of all the paintings and all the biographies that you see downstairs in the basement hung up on the wall, and then all the energy from the books upstairs. So we want to have all that energy, right, to present for the day.
So you're saying if I'm in Peel, and I'm a parent or a caregiver or just a citizen in Peel, I'm a teacher in Peel, we should make it like a day trip.
Yeah, make it a nice afternoon. So we're going to be starting at 3:00, right? I would assume it's going to be about an hour and a half the whole day. So yeah, come early, right? Make sure you get your spot. All right, we're gonna get started promptly at 3:00. So yeah, just come, maybe go out for lunch, have a nice lunch with the family, and from lunch, make your way over to Knowledge Bookstore, right? And then have a nice, be entertained. Be entertained, be edutained, right?
Wow. So see, you're giving me ideas. You're letting me calling up some of my executive people over Peels to say maybe they want to, round up a group of young people, especially young boys.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I definitely would encourage that. Yes.
Yeah, because one of the things that the government had did was they had put Peel, the board, under trusteeship because of racism. Mm-hmm. So I think this would be a good kind of gathering inside of a knowledge bookstore, right, to share time with you, dealing with a book with young boys, young, and talking about just culture, talking about realities of their lived lives. So I think I will reach out to them and see if they could bring at least 12 youth to come through with their families and stuff. So I think it's one of those moments, seminal moments.
Yes, I do believe so as well. Like, just like Sankofa says, if he can do it, you can do the same. Reach out, right? Find some young people that you think that could benefit, from this session, from this conversation. We're going to have a conversation, right? So there's a conversation that needs to be had, right? And this is the space for it. So we're going to do that next Saturday.
Beautiful. So before we go, we started with you. We're going to give you the last word. We're going to also, after you, we're going to ask Brother Sean to come in because I'd like him to tell us people can come get this book before you show up. They can buy online and all of that stuff and all of that. So I'm going to give you the stage. Talk to the people and one more time why they should come out.
Yes. So once again, it's a celebration, right? This is my fifth title, my fifth book that I've published. And so I want to celebrate that with everyone. and we're going to have a great conversation about mentalities, about our responsibility to each other, and we're going to sell copies of the book because this is all part of the process. And let's not forget, you mentioned the first book, Half Court Trap. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Don't forget this one here too. This one is still also available at Knowledge Bookstore, right?
Mm.
So, if you can make it a package deal, buy one copy of the new book, buy a copy of the old book, right? Or the older book, right? And then there's other books there as well. There's I Am a Child of the Sun, which is the poetry book, right? That's the one I was reading from earlier. That's this one here, right? I think Sankofa enjoys this book very much.
That's a powerful book. That's a Ra book, Ra Sun Ra book,
Exactly. And then we have also Telephone Love, right? Which is more like songs and sonnets and poetry, a little bit of love poetry. So we have that in here. And
Do you
love
remember
stories.
days?
Say again?
Do you remember those days? That's a period book right there.
That's a period, yes, it's a period time, a period piece.
Yes.
Right. But what I like about that book is that it tells a story from beginning to end with different poems and different songs. So I had a little fun. I had a lot of fun putting it together. Right. Yes. And there's scripts in there. There's narration and script. So it's not just poetry. There's different elements of expression and writing in there.
Yeah, you got also CDs as well, right?
Yeah, CDs. Well, there should only be one CD at the Knowledge Bookstore. All the other CDs, they were all live CDs, sold out CDs. So we still have one CD that we're selling. It's called Life Eternal. And you'll see that at Knowledge Bookstore. All that will be available to you when you come into the store, right? And then get everything, right? Engulf yourself with heronJones material, right? Take it home, digest it. You will love it. You will love it.
That's it. With that said, man, I think, brother, keep writing, man, because at one point I thought you just grew up and have family and just was working. And then I saw that book and then I saw this book. So I know the writing never stopped, right?
Oh no, we still work. Even if there's not the evidence of it immediately, we still work. And of course, all these things come from the underground to the surface eventually. So hopefully you'll see a lot more work from me in the future.
All right, my brother. Thank you. One love. We'll see you shortly. In 7 days, 7 heaven days?
Less than 7 days, because today's Sunday, so we're on 6 days, really, right? It's Saturday, October 29th, right? 3 p.m., right? So 6 days away, right? We'll count the days down. Just come through and we'll enjoy each other's company.
177?
177 Queen Street West in Brampton, right? Between, what's that? Between, is it McMurtry or McLaughlin?
Yes.
Right? Between Queen and McLaughlin or Main Street and McLaughlin. That's where it is. Right near the train tracks. You can't miss it. Look for purple. Right? Look for purple. Look for a purple store. That will lead you into knowledge.
or just look at people. You're gonna see a bunch of people there. And we see a bunch of black people.
Yeah, you see a bunch of black people in one spot, you're in the right place.
That's right. Sean, you want to enter? I want to touch base with you before I hit the Ajax. So, brother, heronJones, thank you once again for sharing your heart, pouring your energies, because I know you do it out of much love. Thank you, brother.
I do, and I appreciate your time and I appreciate your energy today. Thank you so much for this.
All right. So, yes, brother Sean.
Yes, brother Sankofa.
Okay, talk to me about the Purple Building. Could you give us the website, the address, the phone number? Because people probably want to know if they're going to have to wear a mask or not. People might want to know if they could come get the books, buy a whole bunch of them, get them signed on the day off. They could get them shipped to them if they can't come. Because, our people, we have to be diversified.
Yes. So we're located at 177 Queen Street West. Now, the West is very important because a lot of times people on the East side and thinking they're on the West side. So Queen Street turns west after you cross over Main. We are 2 lights west of Main Street and just east of McMurtry on the south side.
Right? I need to clarify because it is not Toronto.
No, it's not Toronto. It's in Brampton. That's why I mentioned the main street and the MacRitchie, right? And you can reach us at 905-459-9875 for those who like to make a phone call. You can get the book online at knowledgebookstore.com, right? You could drop us an email at sales@knowledgebookstore.com, right? And if for some reason you can't make it, but you would like the book signed, you can always call us. You can, like I said, order the book online. We can have Heron sign the book, and then you can pick it up after. So there is no reason that you need to miss that. As for mass, well, the mass mandate was dropped some time ago, right? So it's individual choice, right?
Okay. And let me not give them. So let's say this. I'm going to do what my dentist do. If your temperature is more than a certain, if you're hot and you did feel sick, walk with your mask. Let me just do that. If you get up and you feel well and you choose not to, fine. But that's what when I go to my dentist, they're like, we won't be testing you, checking you. But if you know you're not well, wear a mask or stay home, right? Because we still want to make sure people are good, right? As we go into the fall.
Well, yes, we consider it.
I'm walking with a whole bunch of people. So, I'm making sure my people know, be responsible. And we hope to be at the bookstore because, Brother Sean, how are you feeling about this? You haven't had a crowd like this in the store in a while, man.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. It almost seems like I forgot what it's like to to have that kind of thing, So I'm looking forward to some really good energy, and I'm looking forward to Heron's big voice, So it's great having Kevin being the one that's doing this, because I can still remember him back in the day, the circle when we were at 18 Queen Street West, reading, and his hands was kind of trembling because he knows the questions that Simba Machoki and them was going to pose after, right? Because we had our little circles, but we come a long way from there. And like I said, 4 books, 5 books, CDs, and now he's incorporating the youth. So I'm looking forward to it, really looking forward to it, to bring some life back into the lounge.
And poetic souls, right?
Yes. Be many poetic souls.
So good, man. So I think today, we want to put out the recording of today to get it to as much people, so people know they could come support. The Black Bookstore is a hub. It's an institution. And somebody says, Sankofa, do you own knowledge? I always say, I own knowledge, yes. Not the bookstore, but knowledge. So thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure. Until we see you on Saturday.
Be blessed.
And be black.
Yes, that too.